in asking us questions. So people like me and John, when we meet with Derek, we can ask the questions directly from the guy that's sitting in the seat. And that's something that hasn't been happening for a long time. We're actually taking information from those guys. And I don't think, John, maybe you can maybe talk about this, but I think that in talking with Derek, I'm seeing more about that they're not listening as much to the, the big trade organizations as they are as much as listening to the guy with the steering wheel in his hand.
That's exactly what I got out of it as well. They seem to really be trying to get their boots on the ground. They want real intel from the real people who have to do the job. And that's just been one of the things that really impressed me about meeting Derek when we did last week. He really seems like he's down to earth. He really seems to care about the people who are doing the job, not just the people who are trying to implement policy. And that really is a huge plus for this industry right now.
Yeah, and I think he even mentioned, to paraphrase him, that he's got a boss, the Secretary of Transportation, who is a boots on the ground guy too. And we've seen that evidence since he started. We're seeing him out talking to drivers and meeting Gretchen with the tree in Washington, D.C. He's interacting on social media, on X and things like that with drivers like we never saw that before. And we've never seen, in my lifetime, I've never seen a Secretary of Transportation sitting in the cabinet room with the President of the United States talking specifically about truck drivers and the rigs that they drive. That's just reassuring. We're in this industry at a good time.
Oh, it's fantastic. For the first time in, heck, I think in the time I've ever been in this industry, we have real attention by the administration, focusing on what it is we do and recognizing that trucking is an essential part, not just of the U.S. economy, but of national security. This is too important to ignore. So I very much love the fact that they're engaging the way they are.
And what's the one thing our industry's been asking for decades? Enforcement, right? We have all the regulations. We don't need any more regulations. We have them. We need enforcement. We've been begging for enforcement. And like I said yesterday at Freight Waves, Merry Christmas. We got that gift coming.
Yeah, that's the big thing here is the enforcement, because when we discussed, even I listen to you often, Dale, on Mondays, but I also was on Tuesday too this week with Dave with Mark Willis.
Yeah,
and this is that kind of thing. The regulations about who's regulating who should be on the highway. The safety thing. They're not shutting people down. They're leaving it up to the broker or to actually they even said raise insurance rates and let the insurance company keep bad actors out. That's not our job. That's not the broker's job. That's the government job to keep the people off the highway who are not eligible, who are not qualified to drive. And Dale, you and I have been on the show too, talk about these re-inquiring the truckers over again. They know more, and you and I debate the MC number problems here. That Matt, we just got to stop this kind of stuff and make sure we're dealing who we're dealing with, and have the government have the authority and the courage to go out and shut some of this stuff down.
Yeah, I want to bring up something Jeff and I have talked about a million times, and that's the equipment. Like, are we really taking care of the equipment? And one of the things I think that we mentioned with, on several podcasts and with the administrator is that if we looked at the two agencies, the two most influential agencies, I think, within the Department of Transportation are the FAA and the FMCSA. When's the last time we saw a commercial aircraft go down in the United States? It's been years, right? We have 5,900 on average commercial motor vehicle fatalities every single year. 5,900. That's equivalent to 3 737 crashing every month. So if that were the case, imagine how pissed off our nation would be if those many planes are going down every month. But we have it happening in trucking. And why is it happening? Because a plane captain or a pilot gets out and looks at his truck, checks every single thing that could be possibly wrong with that thing. Even if the lavatory door is broken, that plane won't fly. And the people that he works for on the operations side say it will not fly. Over on the other side, on our side, if the driver says it's not safe to fly, his dispatcher says, you take that truck anyway. We're not going to lose a customer. It's just We're doing it at bass backwards. We have to become pissed off at what's happening. And why does that work? If you look at 1980, there were 50,000 on average people killed by a drunk driver. Today, there are about 8 to 10,000. It's still way too many, but it's cut significantly in half. Again, why? Because the country got mad about it. And they're not using mad, but they got mad about it. And we have to get mad about it. And I think that, Jeff, you preach on this a lot, and I follow that a lot because it's so important. 1 out of 5 trucks shouldn't be on the road in the first place. 97% of the trucking companies haven't been rated.
Right.
So that's why we are reaping what we have sown. We have an industry that we deserve because we built it. Now we got to unravel this stuff and get it back to where it's supposed to be.
2 points that you make on this part, Dale. The pre-employment trip is they don't have to record that anymore.
Right.
And now they were going to do this new CSA scores where if the driver did not do the inspection right, at least we had accounted for it. So they even took that part of it away.
Well, that's all coming back. I think, John, you'll remember when Derek said self-certification is leaving the FMCSA, ELDs. Right. And here's the other thing. We're seeing more people put out of service for this too. If we have 3 or 4 days where they mark their truck, absolutely nothing wrong with it, right? That's falsifying the documents. There's going to be one small thing wrong with every single truck every single time. If you write for 5 days in a row and it's switched drivers, there's never been anything wrong with that truck, you are falsifying the document.
Yeah, and I keep on saying this, and I put a poll out there the other day in regards to shippers. Shippers have to have skin in the game. We can only see so far, Dale. And when they are backing up to the door, I feel, and I did it in my career, that I inspected that trailer. I looked for leaks in there because it was my product that was in there. I want to make sure that it was sealed tight. And I also walked around with our drivers to do a pre-trip inspection. It's only 15 minutes out of your day. And when you think about the drivers, they can drive 11 out of 14 hours a day, and they have 3 hours of downtime. Well, if they're banging up against a dock instead of sitting in their cab, why don't they do their job? The number one test on a CDL license is the pre-trip inspection. It's not a one and done deal. They are required and mandated by 392.7 and also the DVIR, which is the 396.11, that they have to fill that out and do a mandatory pre-trip inspection before every load is moved. Why not do it at the shipper and have the shipper just sign off that the driver did it, just like an OSHA inspection or whatever, that they did the form, they filled it out, and they put it in a file, just like a hazmat document, where all hazmat documents are put in a file for a couple months in case you have to go back to that. And you also have to check to make sure the driver is hazmat certified. I mean, you have to dot the I's and cross the T's. And I feel strongly that shippers need to get involved into this, because
let me hit the brakes for just 1 second. We have Claudia Catlett finally joining us. Thank you so much for coming, Claudia. I apologize. The link didn't originally work. Welcome. Hope you're doing all right.
I'm great. Thank you. I apologize too. I was having some tech issues this morning, but I'm all set now.
Oh, I'm still having plenty of tech issues, but Dale brought up this clip about ending self-certification. I have that queued up. Let me go ahead and run that real quick.
And the problem with this is I go back to, is self-certification. Self-certification has to go. And I've made it clear in the next 3 years and a month that I have in this job that we will do away with everything that has to do with self-certification at FMCSA. You have to have vetting processes to be able to make sure that they are within the standard. And then not only that, how do we make sure that you're compliant and we have people that are monitoring that year over year over year, to make sure that we have the good qualified driver training schools in this country, training good qualified drivers who will be in the market to be good American truck drivers. And with that being said, we have this is the best industry in the world.
So here's what I take from that. What he said is all the stuff that Claudia, Tommy, Jeff, and John have been talking about for 3 years since we've known each other. Finally, the government is listening, I think, at the grassroots level to fix those things, and they really are doing a lot of cool things about it. And Jeff, you mentioned about shippers being held to account. I'm so glad that our Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, agrees with you, because he said in his press conference that shippers are going to be held to account. And I see that's going to be even more and more popular when the Supreme Court rules on the broker negligence case that's before them right now. I think if that rules that the brokers are not held negligent, that the shippers are going to have more and more pressure on them, because they are the direct link to that driver getting on the road.
Yeah, I concur, you know, and like I said, I did that decades ago. And I know you probably did it too, Dale, when you were on that side as well.
Yeah.
And because it's an important document in case anything happens. You don't have to be certified as a shipper to know all the details. You just have to confirm that the driver, part of the transportation agreement under requirements and expectations, if you have a contract, you need to do a pre-trip inspection, and that document or form that's filled out will go on file. In case anything happens, we can go back and saying, yep, he did it, he signed it, and we signed off that it was done. Here it is in the file. Just in case something happens and there's a claim, whatever. Well, he stated it, and I received the form, etc. They have to have some skin in the game. The point I say to all the shippers and everybody that's involved, would you want your brand image and reputation in that truck if it's not roadworthy, and it's going to cause a problem? We really need to dig into this a lot further, Dale. We really need to do it. And it's
that
a
reputation
effort.
also.
Yeah, it's a collaborative effort. Like
Right.
Dale pushes. We can't do it single. We need everybody to be on the same page, driving at the same speed to get this taken care of. It's not going to happen overnight.
But one of the things
We're
that's
seeing-
happening is that reputation piece is flowing not just when a carrier is operating, but even when a carrier shuts down. One of the things that we have all seen in this industry is the buying and selling of MC numbers. So that reputation, unbeknownst to the original owner, is still continuing forward and causing them problems. And we've got a clip about that from Administrator Barrs as well. I want to roll that real quick.
Davis Trucking. So Jimmy Davis decided he's retiring. They closed Davis Trucking down. The number of people that will call him or someone else to say, I want to buy your DOT number. I know you just went out of business, or you're retiring, or you closed your door. I want to just take your DOT number because you're a pretty good carrier. So I want to be able to take your DOT number, and I can potentially be able to have insurance rates that are better. Or I just want to be able to operate and just fly under the radar. If I get caught, then it'll be on you, and then I'll go get another one and move forward. So that's the part of the fraud piece that needs to be addressed. It's not the legitimate sale.
Right. That meeting happened. We talked to the administration about selling and buying of MC numbers. And I got together with the CEO of Truck Stop, and we introduced a petition for rulemaking that says the FMCSA will get the authority to regulate the sale of an MC number. There's a lot of things in that rulemaking. I just posted about it on LinkedIn today in our actual petition for rulemaking. Derek approved it. It's up at policy now, and it's been put forward. Yesterday we got an email that says this is going forward. So as soon as we get a docket number, we're going to get that out to everybody to submit your comments. We want to get this thing passed as soon as possible. I know that Derek said that the MC numbers are going to go away and replaced by DOT numbers. I don't see that happening in the short term. There's too many things that have to happen before that happens. So I think that's a piece of not legislation, but a rulemaking that has to be supported. We got to stop these guys from buying and selling MC numbers. That is probably the biggest threat to what we're doing right now, because it's the hardest to catch and hardest to find and hardest to regulate.
Dale, I disagree with you about them going away, but I totally agree with you. They don't have to have a legislation go away because they were mandated to go away in 1998.
I agree, Tommy. There's no doubt that they're going to go away. I just don't see it happening.
No, you went on the second. No, it's going to take time. I realize, because as I pointed out in Mass 2 years ago with you there, because then how are you going to place the insurance part of it? Because they're having insurance, how do you give them notice to shut the truck down? So they haven't walked through these mechanics of it.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It'll go into
that-
chaos because too many TMS companies don't even have DOT numbers in their system yet. The first thing you ask for, what's the first thing we all say when someone wants to tender a load or accept a load? What's your MC number?
Yeah.
Right.
So it's going to, Tommy, I agree.
People don't understand that doesn't show anything about their operations, safety, or anything else. Because I asked for the DOT number when I talk to somebody because I want to see their operation. I don't care if they have authority or not. I look at who the insurance company is later. You got to do that as a broker to make sure they have the rights to haul the load. But beyond that, they don't show anything.
Yeah. And if everybody thought that way, DOT numbers could be gone in about a month. But nobody thinks that way right now. So it's going to take us some time.
Right. Well, I have told Keith my discussion about that too.
Ken?
And told him why they were able to be sold in the first place, and
Yeah.
going back to history. But anyway,
You know what? I've been thinking about this for a while about the MC being sold. Well, the original register who has that MC, I think a form or something has to be placed that before he sells that, he needs to get all that new information and submit that to FMCSA before he releases that MC or sells it, and then the background check starts right then and there.
That's how it
They
used to
do
be.
that, and they get paid extra for not doing that. They get paid extra for going ahead and getting them the email and the phone number and everything else, and not transferring things over. And that's what the issue is, that this stuff is happening, and we don't see that. Dale has to send an FOIA in order to see those type of transfer pieces of information. Am I correct on the FOIA
Yeah.
part, Dale?
Well, that's assuming the
see
new
that.
buyer actually sends the new information in.
There you
You know,
go.
if
But
they
they
don't
won't.
send it to FMCSA,
they
FMCSA
should.
has no idea. They
Of
have
course
to
they should,
actively
Jeff.
send.
They should do a lot of things. Like,
I know, or get fined, or send them a huge fine on it. Something has to happen.
That's what our rulemaking addresses. Our rulemaking says that there has to be a process. You have to apply, you have to be approved, all those kind of things. The other part, it says that if somebody applies for transferring their MC number, it's not solidified until the title transfers. And on their safer, or what's going to be called modus, it has to say there's a sale in progress in big red letters, like you see now for insurance expiring or whatever. There's a sale in process. We're working on the new applicant to see if he's qualified to take this thing over. If there's an accident that happens after that, the seller would be held responsible because he needs to know the rule.
Right.
Just like if you sell your car, until title passes, if that car gets in an accident, you're going to be pulled into court.
Correct.
So those are the things we really got to work on. And again, it goes back, and Derek agreed with us there about the TWIC card. We need to have, I think, that, he said there's TWIC or something like that. We have to work that all out together. But I think that doesn't require legislative work. It requires rulemaking on the Department of Transportation and Department of Homeland Security to come together and say, this is a new requirement to obtain or maintain a authority. We won't see buying and selling of MC numbers if somebody's Homeland Security background check and their fingerprints are attached to it. They're not going to let it go as easily.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
Dale, as I recall, I think you have got something you need to
I do.
go on. Do you want to run this community carrier clip
Sure.
and comment on it real quick?
Yeah, I think we asked Derek, what do you think about chameleon carriers? He said something like, I hate them. Next question.
Yeah.
The registration piece has to be able to help us to identify, oh, wait a minute, you were just here. You're Derek Barrs, principal owner of this company, but now all of a sudden you have another company and another company and another company. You're just, because you were out of service over here, but now you're going to start up a new company. And I'm really hopeful again that our registration system is going to be able to help stop or alleviate, or at least put a plug in the hole for this, so we can begin looking at other ways to try to address that. But the community carrier piece is the only thing it's doing is just a workaround for safety. You got bad actors who are just, I want to keep working. I'm going to keep doing. I know no one's going to follow up on what I'm doing, so I'm just going to keep doing it. At the end of the day,
only one who polices chameleon carriers is insurance.
When I first started Freight Validate, I said that we should really start working together. We should start collaborating, and the vetting company should come together and work as one, because if the fraudsters fall through the seams, if we start overlapping those seams, it's going to be harder for them to fall through. And everybody at that time looked at me like I had three heads. Like, we're not going to collaborate. We're competitors, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward a couple of years, we have my carrier portal is integrated with Freight Validate. My carrier portal is integrated with Carrier Assure. RMIS is affiliated with Denim, who's affiliated with Freight Validate. They just announced yesterday that Verified Carrier is affiliated now with Truck Stop and RMIS. So we're starting to see what we kind of asked for. Let's bring these people together. And one of the things that John and I talked to Derek about was, let's bring all these players together and sit around a boardroom at the FMCSA. We know how to vet better than you do, so let's teach you how to vet, so that our platform now, you don't let them in. So we're only vetting those bad guys that maybe broke bad after you let them in. So that's something that we're really working hard on. And I think that that's going to come to fruition. I've talked to, I met with several of the, we want to call them competitors or other betting companies in the last week. I had lunch with them, had coffee with them, said, what do you guys think about? Let's start putting this thing together. And not one of them said no.
What the insurance industry does for chameleon carriers that would be easy is that first 20 lines of the 150 form, which asks them who they are. If there's any other motor carrier with that same one, they are noted as a chameleon carrier. And the insurance industry has a problem with that and won't buy insurance. So it's just what's common. You can't get rid of trucks. I mean, the chameleon carriers, you know, the trucks also, they say who used the trucks before. So there are things in their own public website, Dale, if they take time to look at it, that could catch this early on.
The other thing that they didn't introduce is they're going to use a lot more AI, and so they're going to be able to find those things easier. It's a lot of work and not a lot of budget to be able to manage that FMCSA. I mean, people say, why aren't we doing enough inspections or audits and those kind of things? And Derek made a pretty good point. Landstar is a big company. It's not like sending an investigator in there overnight and do an investigation a couple hours or an audit and get out. It's going to take 3 months to do a good audit at a company like Landstar.
Yeah, Landstar is just so big. There are organizations that have multiple MC numbers that are legitimate, but having let's take my favorite guy. Okay, Mabe Logistics. I've been chasing this guy for 2 years. He has had 9 different carrier companies that we know of in the last 2 years alone. And he's just keep on getting new carrier authorities so that he doesn't have to pay his owner operators when they go and they quit and they report him for non-payment, and that he just keeps on rolling over and over and over again. These are the guys that we really have to stop. These are the guys that are slaughtering this industry and slaughtering innocent drivers in the process.
Yeah. And what did Barrs say? He says that right now, it's been a lot of work out in silos. The agency and the industry haven't been working very well together. And that's very apparent to everybody. And he did say he wants to get these groups together and so that the industry can start giving information to the FMCSA. I'm not sure I understand what that question means. What type of governance model will be needed to organize these competing stakeholders?
I think they mean something like making sure that when you talk about organizing the competing, I think some of the issues, I don't know if I'm using the right terminology here, but yes, we all need to work together to try to make this better, right? So like I look at that question kind of like with the SaaS agreements, right? Like if our 2 tech companies are working together to do a thing, what kind of stuff is making sure that the information that we're going back and forth with, or the information that I as a carrier am giving whatever vetting company or whatever brokerage in order to prove who I am is, shared appropriately or not shared, shared appropriately.
Yeah, I don't.
Governance is what that question might be.
I don't mean sharing proprietary information or any of that kind of thing. I'm talking about sitting at a table and saying, here's some methods we use to vet. Like we'll pull out FOIA requests to see if they're affiliated with another company and not disclose it. We try and use AI to pull in post office box addresses to say that this. So I'm talking about methods, not exactly how they do it. So I don't think that we can't regulate that all the vetting companies because they're separate entities. They can do their own thing, kind of thing. I'm just saying let's take some of those methods and how we find it and get the government a better way to use AI to. I call it the Delta program. Don't even let them aboard. It's very similar to how the border works. I'm tired of hearing people say that the trucking companies messed up because Biden let so many people across the border. Well, that may have happened. That may be true. That doesn't negate the fact that we let them into our industry. Right. I don't care if they come in. I do care if they come across, but if they come into the border, that's one thing. But we don't have to let them into our industry. We should have a better vetting process there. And I think that's where the industry needs help where the agency needs help from the industry. And we can help them by saying, here's some ways to keep them out. Now, once they come to us and they may break bad, we have processes in place to make sure they're not doing things wrong.
When it comes to the competing stakeholders that one commenter made, Yeah, that's what the whole best practices piece of what the task force stands for is all about. We're trying to get all these competing groups together because we don't care about each other's tech. We don't care about intellectual property. What we care about is the process. We care about being able to run off the same page so that we have consistent processes that we can actually apply in order to safeguard the vast majority of the industry. We all know that it's going to be impossible to eliminate freight fraud in every form that exists out there. It will always be there. But what we can do is we can put out the necessary education and best practices across the industry to anyone who's willing to listen so that they can at least protect themselves. And we've got a baseline to operate from as an industry, because only together are we going to be able to fight this. Because Claudia may know of a gap in one process. Tommy knows a gap in another process. I may have the tool that fills those gaps, but if we're not talking to each other, how do we know we've got the tools that we need and thus then develop the necessary processes to make sure those tools are utilized appropriately for the good of the industry?
I want to just comment really quickly on something that Claudia mentioned. And she got a very good point about this, that shippers aren't going to be try and be held responsible so much for the pre-trip inspection, those kind of things. But I have to just go back to just the due diligence, common sense piece of it. If you're a shipper and you see a truck pull up and he's got 3 tires that are just bald as hell, and he knows the driver's drunk, he has a responsibility. The shipper has a responsibility just in due diligence, common sense. Yeah. Now, can we say that shipper has a responsibility to do everything that, like the guy's windshield washer fluid wasn't out, so or whatever those are. But I think that the shipper should say, hey, before I give you my load, can you just tell me that you've done a pre-trip inspection, or have them sign the rate confirmation sheet that says, before I took this load, I certify that my driver completed his pre-trip inspection. So I think we can't hold the shipper too responsible, because then we get into lawsuits, those kind of things.
No, that's my point.
That's what I talk about with English language proficiency, non-domicile CDL inspections. Get it in your rate confirmation sheet and your contract that says, I certify that I took this load and my driver's qualified and all those kind of things. So when it goes to court, you can say as a broker or shipper, what more do I need to do? This guy certified all this information. Am I supposed to do his job too and the FMCSA's job and try and load this truck at the same time? So there's a fine line with liability and negligence and doing the right thing and common sense.
Yeah, wholehearted agreement with that. And in one of, in the past organizations that I've worked with, I've certainly had shippers who were much more diligent on the safety side of it. Like, hey, that person didn't have safety vests, boots, what I mean, I'm sure most of you have seen or heard of some sort of chargeback to the carrier or to the broker or whomever that is for coming in because, hey, listen, we're serious about this, and we're serious enough about when you come onto our yard, you need to have the following pieces of safety equipment for your driver, because otherwise, guess what? They're going to be held liable for the stuff that goes down on their property, right? So they want to make sure that they're requiring all of these things on the front side. And if you didn't have it, then hey, and something goes on, then that's on you, which is exactly what Dale is talking about having for more so on our side as the broker to say, hey, listen, this is what they said they were going to do. And the things that I'm talking about as safety are things that are visual, that the drive, that they can see, like at the guard check. Do you have on a helmet or whatever things are required, right? It depends on the shipper what that would be. And as a broker, I've seen chargebacks to my company that were passed through to the carrier because that carrier didn't have those pieces that they were supposed to have, to do that. And unfortunately, to John's point earlier, when he said those who are willing to listen, I feel like everyone on this panel, as well as most everybody who's watching, will know 100% people do not have any sort of skin in the game until it hits their pocketbooks. And I'm not trying to be tacky or anything else of the sort, but until somebody has made you start writing a check because those things have not happened, that's when someone cares the most. And I don't mean that to be dismissive. I just mean like it's the world we live in, and we have to recognize that that's a thing. We have all
that is absolute fact. And I would say 90% of the fraud calls that I get as the double broker bounty hunter is because people found my website. When do they look for my website? After they've become a victim of whatever's going on. And that's when they finally learn about what it is that we do and the actions that we're taking. And it sucks that we are pigeonholed into this tiny little corner of the industry trying to do something for the whole of the industry. But what Claudia is saying is 100% true. Until they become a victim, they don't care. So one of the goals that we have is trying to get them to care from the beginning.
Yep. Yeah.
One point that's really important that you both make very clear, and it's very relevant and it's very obvious, that no one cared about non-domiciled CDLs in English-speaking language until a family of 5 was killed in Terrell, Texas. No one cared about the English-speaking language and stuff until a group of 3 people was killed in Fort Pierce, Florida. It's been around forever. Just it took an accident to make it, and that's we have to be so much more preventative than reactive, and that's what I think. One thing I will say about I think this administration is getting us to be that way. But yeah, you both make a great point with that. I have to cut out, but very good conversation. You guys really know what you're talking about, and I'm really glad to be kind of affiliated with what you're saying because it's so important. Education is what's going to save us. I really think that it's not the education after the crash, it's the education before the crash that's going to make everything better.
Yeah. And, just the final note that, and I've always said this, it'll always take a catastrophic event to change somebody's mind. And when they react to it, because they always think, oh, it's never going to happen to me. Right. Well, that's what this organization is about, is by proactively thinking and looking for the gaps that you can fill in so it won't happen to you. So you can stop it in its tracks before it happens. You don't want to be the guy that loses everything because you had it in your possession. You chose not to do anything about it. And now you're paying a huge price. We don't want that. We want to save you. We want to try to minimize, like John said, we won't eliminate it completely, but we'll minimize it to the best of our ability by implementing best practices in what we learned from a group of people that have seen many different things. And this is what the organization's about.
And if you don't follow organizations like the Freight Fraud Task Force or all these other people that are trying to help educate you, there'll be one word that'll always be kept in the back of your mind when you say it hasn't happened to me. And that word is yet.
Yep. Yeah. True.
It's not if, it's when.
Right.
It is definitely going to happen. One of the things that I'm constantly seeing is it depends on the weakness. These guys, I kid you not, they are actually surveilling every motor carrier, every shipper, every broker in one sense or another, both remotely and on site, to look and see who's weak, who's not. They're at shippers watching to see whether or not the shipper is going to look at the side of the truck to question whether or not that's the truck that's supposed to get loaded or not. They are in carrier and shippers' emails. They have hacked into emails. They're sitting in the inbox and they're watching the message traffic go through, trying to find an opportune time to sit there and steal a load. These guys are very patient. They're professional. They are well funded, and they know exactly what they're doing. As soon as they see what we're trying to do, they'll change their tactic.
I'm going to make one more point, then I got to run. When people are offering you $1.25 a mile, they're not buying the freight for a cheap price. They're buying access to your procedures.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. Procedures, y'all. Just because a carrier didn't steal from you the first time doesn't mean they're not going to do it the second time.
Right.
He's buying access.
That's all he's doing, or she. Absolutely.
Thanks a lot, everyone. It's great seeing you again. If I don't
Thanks,
talk to you before then, have a super Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. If you ever need anything from me, please call me. And thanks for what you're doing. You guys are so important.
Thanks,
Dale.
Thank you, Dale. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Okay, so we kind of already hit our big topic. It was fantastic being with Dale last week to meet with Derek Barrs. And it still amazes me because I've asked this question about every single broker I've spoken to when I've dispatched a load in the last week. Do you know who Derek Barrs is? And not a single one knew. Not a single one. I would think if you're in this industry, you would want to know who the senior regulator of the industry is. Okay. So, and for those who don't know, Derek Barrs is a career law enforcement guy. He did DOT law enforcement for the state of Florida. And that's why he knows so much about what's going on in this industry and why he's actually a very good selection for the job. Yeah, I've had quite a few trolls come after me, sitting there saying, "Oh, he's just a politician. He doesn't care about what he's saying and all that." I think that's a bunch of BS. I've never seen a level of engagement by FMCSA or any government agency dealing with trucking since the Motor Carrier Act in 1980. Okay, this is phenomenal. This is a game changer, and this is something that I think is going to be huge moving forward. Were standards discussed with Mr. Barrs? To an extent. I mean, let's face it. We had an hour with him, and you guys can, if you're on YouTube, you can catch the recording that we did at that meeting. Please check that out. We have that posted. It's about an hour and a half long. He did not get into any details, but they are trying to figure out processes, and they want the industry's help to identify those processes. That is why they're talking so much to Dale. That's why they're talking to me. That's why they're trying to get with the entire task force to try to get those processes put together. And they want it to be a grassroots industry setup thing. They don't want it to be, oh, we'll just talk to TIA and let TIA tell us how to handle it. They don't want that. They want the boots on the ground to help tell them how it really is. And I think
they want people in the trenches that deal with it day in and day out and understand it better than they do. You know, I mean, just like Barr said, he's not a truck driver, right? Never drove a truck, owned a truck, or anything like that. He is a sponge. He wants to learn. You know, he was in charge of the state troopers, I believe, in Florida.
Yes.
So he has a law background, and the man reads. The reads, he absorbs, he understands, and he knows that there's a huge problem, and that's why he's outreaching to the people that are trying to control things and manage it and put best practices forward. He wants to know what they are so they can implement it and change rules and regulations and make mandates. Seriously.
You know, I've heard a lot of great things in that presentation that he did. If you're only interested in the presentation that he did, I have like about 20 shorts, again, on my YouTube channel, based on the stuff that he's saying. Please check those out, because that really shows where FMCSA is setting the bar when it comes to regulatory matters and what their vision is for the industry moving forward. And we played some of the most pertinent clips earlier in the show, but it really is phenomenal to me how much he appears to care about the opinions of those who are here in the industry dealing with this stuff day to day. He knows there are some things he can control, and there are things that he can't. But for the stuff that he can control, boy, they're really active. And one of the things he can't control are the bad guys that are already in the network, who already have their authorities, who already are embedded in people's email boxes. And it's going to be up to us in the industry to identify these guys and to push them out. I mentioned before, they're surveilling all of us. Those who are strong in their defenses are the ones that are not going to get hit near as often, because it's not low-hanging fruit. If you're a shipper and you're not checking the sides of the trucks, if you're a broker and you're not doing any additional verifications other than the one email that you got, then you're getting classified as weak. And if you're classified as weak, they're going to hit you over and over and over again until you change. They're going to go after the low-hanging fruit. Don't be low-hanging fruit.
I agree 100%, and I need to run because I've got to make sure that I don't have someone as low-hanging fruit. So I appreciate you guys so very much, and applaud all the things, echoing Dale. Look, the people here on this are doing everything that we can within the industry, and not just for our company, but within the industry to try to make things better. Thank you all for your diligence. Merry Christmas, if I don't see you guys before then. So we'll catch up soon. Sorry.
Claudia, it's great seeing you.
All right. Bye, guys.
Tommy, you've hardly said a word, man.
No, I just been listening again from the insurance standpoint. You learn your lesson, and I don't know if you saw that new prime verdict that came down out of Texas, $44.1 million, and the essence of that, and the thing that caused this much. This was a multi-crash deal in Texas. This truck, the highway was always already littered with trucks and everything before the prime truck came up there. And what they said is the driver should have not been on the road, period, or should weather. And so you're going to learn by these actions. And unfortunately, the billboard's attorneys are telling some trucking companies what they should not do, but they're going to be put out of business here. And so, but the problem that Dale mentioned earlier is the dispatcher said, well, go ahead, you can get through. We got to get that load there. So once the shipper and the broker puts less pressure on them to go through these hazardous situations, or just have to pick up a load because I can't find somebody else. We got to stop that. The insurance industry is doing as much as they can because they're the ultimate pay for a lot of this stuff. But by the same token, you can't do it without help.
One of Dale's platform is about to roll out something. He made an announcement about it recently. And Tommy, I know you and I have had conversations about COIs in the past and how they're really a faulty method in trying to determine whether or not a carrier is worthy. Because let's face it, one of the big issues with COIs is that, the COI is only valid at the date and time that it's printed. An hour later, a carrier can sit there and remove a truck from a policy, and whoever just pulled that certificate is not going to know that. So what Dale is doing, he is partnered with this one group. I wish I knew the name of the group because I would put it out here for their publicity. But Dale is integrating with this one group in order to have Freight Validate to show real-time updates on insurance policies. And we're talking about up to the second. So if a new driver is added, you will know the instant it happens. If a truck is removed, you'll know the instant it happens. And for the platforms that are integrated with Freight Validate, which would be MCP, and I believe RMIS is going to be doing that soon too, they are going to get that kind of access to that information. So soon, the requirement for a broker to pull a COI through the carrier is not going to have to happen anymore, because those COIs can come across automatically. Somebody has developed the tech to pull that together. So I find that to be really exciting.
Well, I'm interested in how they do that, because part of that stuff is proprietary. So they have to be careful what they're looking at and who has to give authority, because they have to have that authority given by the trucker to be able to put their information in that part. But I totally agree with you. I'm working right now with Highway, and I don't, if y'all got a contact with Highway, I need to tell them that, because they receive certificate insurance out of the assigned risk program, and the assigned risk program doesn't let agents give certificate insurance out, and they don't know the difference. Anybody beyond the trucker trying to send it directly to the shipper, any of these third-party people who approve it or don't approve it is causing problems, Dale, because John, because they're using AI and they don't understand the subtleties of these kind of things.
That makes
sense. AI scares the heck out of me. When it comes to fraud in this industry, AI can be good or it can be absolutely downright freaking evil. And you better believe the bad guys are exploiting AI every opportunity they can, whether it's going to be to forge documents or if it's going to be to utilize an American voice to hide a foreign dispatcher or whatever. They're utilizing this stuff. They're exploiting it, and they're going to continue to do so. That is the next front in fighting the fraud war that we're all engaged in. So it's definitely something we need to get smarter on, and we have to be prepared for, because it is coming.
Yeah, talking about insurance, and a lot of people are against my idea about the shippers having skin in the game, etc. You have a different perspective when you were a shipper, and this started for me a long time ago. When I wanted to learn about trucks, I used to load trucks, drive forklifts, pick orders and stuff like that. So I went out in the yard and I looked. And what started my passion and wanting to learn more is that I walked around the trailer and I saw a tire that was literally shredding. And I pointed out to the driver, and the driver was, I'm going to stop and get that fixed at the local station down the road. This what started the whole thing, where You, as a shipper, you have to have skin in the game, because liability goes extremely far, as well as money. Money is attached to liabilities and civil lawsuits and everything under the umbrella when it comes to shipping. Because if you don't take care of that tire and it goes out and the truck flips, now you've got a claim. You got to process all that kind of stuff. There's money involved in it. That there's customer relations where you can't deliver it, and you've got to have a new shipment shipped out, more cost and everything. There's so much that's involved in just taking a walk around a trailer. You don't have to be certified or anything like that, but you have to make it clear and concise when you have contracts with carriers or with brokers, what you expect them to do. What are the requirements in order to service this account? You know, and I had this thing, and I said it for decades. I do not fire brokers or carriers. I give them the opportunity, equal opportunity, to fire themselves if they're not meeting the standards, if they're not meeting the requirements. It goes against the carrier scorecard as well. And, you know, and mine was huge. When you're managing something extremely huge, there's many moving parts, and it costs money. You know, and that's why I'm a firm believer that shippers should walk around and mandate with their carriers and their brokers that they ensure that carriers do a pre-trip inspection on many different levels, and then give that form to the shipper to say that it was done. Because God forbid if it goes out there, and I know some forensic investigators, crash investigators, go out on the road, and I'll use one example. You know, a guy said that he did a pre-trip inspection. There was 4/10 of 30 seconds of a tire, steer tire, that was that was fine, and made the requirements back then. Well, that thing flipped and killed somebody. All right. So they did the investigating there. He was only 175 miles out from the shipper. There's no way that he could lose 4/10 of a tire of tread in that time frame. Belts were showing and all this other kind of stuff. So there's forgery. There's all different kinds of stuff. They go back to, do you know this, that this happened or whatever? There's so many different things that it's not about the liability. It's about perception and seeing that. Do you say something, or do you walk away and let that happen? No, you bring the attention.
The shipper doesn't even check to make sure the truck and the serial number of the truck and the driver was the one that the broker assigned to them.
Well, that's the truth. That's
I totally agree with you, but they don't do the simple things.
That's my point. You know, and that's what's the biggest problem here. And I say this, and everybody calls BS. Okay, I never faced fraud, theft, or double brokering in my career. There's a reason why, because I am a strict a developer and creator of master work instructions and process improvement plans and SOPs that you give and that you create the best practices, and you mirror that at every facility that you run in order to make sure that you are dotting the I's and crossing the T's. You don't want to be in that reactive mode. You want to be in a proactive mode. And that comes from experience and understanding how those mechanisms are work and intertwine, and why those problems come up. It's simple. It doesn't take a lot of time to stop something from happening. Truly, you know, and I am passionate about this, you know, and I'm good at what I do. And that's why I didn't have to face that. You know, want to believe in that? Fine. If you don't, it's going to hit you.
I just was bringing that up, Jeff. I totally agree with everything you're saying.
It's going to hit you because the logistics industry.
The crazy thing about it.
No, I'm saying that the logistics industry is a blindsided industry. I don't care who you are. You're going to get blindsided someday at some hour during the week or during the month. You don't know when it's going to come, right? You have to be prepared for that. And that comes with experience on all different kinds of levels. You know, learn, you know, understand the possibilities. Don't put yourself in harm's way. It doesn't take that much time to do that. 15 minutes out of your operation's not going to kill you. If you know what you're looking for and understand what should be in transportation agreements, put it in there. It's worth it.
You know, if it's one thing I absolutely love about this group, it's our passion. Our passion is undeniable. for what it is that we try to do in this and the impact that we try to have on this industry as a whole. It's why we created the Freight Fraud Task Force. We are all co-founders. Every one of us who is on the screen today as a co-founder. It is why we do all the stuff that we do. Oh, and by the way, for the most part, we all do it for free. I mean, I know most of the work I do is pro bono or super low cost, etc. So, I mean, we don't do this to get rich. We don't do this to get famous. We do this because this is an industry we love. It is an industry that is vital.
Put money up already, John.
Huh?
A couple of us put money up to buy into this, right, Jeff?
Well, hey,
I'm not complaining. I'm just noting this part. But, yeah, guys, we need to.
It's not just money, but it's also the time and energy that we put in. But again, we do it for the good of the industry.
You're all doing a great job. I've been kind of my resolution next year is not to go to the hospital. I spent more time in the hospital this year than I ever have in my whole life.
No, and I appreciate. I appreciate everybody that's involved in this, and
Right.
and I keep on saying, with all the volunteers from all segments of the industry, we have well over 400 years of experience. In segments that we never worked in that should be considered because it's all part of the fraud and what's going on. We want those touch points. We want to touch everything because when it comes down to it, fraud is all over the place, and somebody's going to get hit. And if we can get somebody that's an SME, a subject matter expert in a specific area of the industry that can help somebody, we've done our job. And that's what we're attempting to do. And that's why we're growing every day and getting the right people in the right places to help the people who have been hit or don't want to get hit and want to learn. So
I got a commitment I need to think about here in a second. So, John, are we done? Or
we're wrapping up. I'm about to go ahead and do the closure.
Yeah.
You have any final thoughts there, Tommy?
No, that's it. Appreciate that.
Okay, Jeff, you got any final thoughts?
Nope. The thing I want to say is that we're really looking forward to our new website that's going to be popping out there on the 20th. We've worked diligently for several months to put this thing together, and finally, it's going to come to fruition. And we're really excited about it. Let's put it that way.
Now, we'd also like to go ahead and thank Baseline Web Design for helping us with that website. They are also a sponsor of the show. And we are looking for sponsors for the task force overall. So if you are part of an organization who wants to get involved in the fraud fight and you would like to get your name associated with us, reach out to myself or Jeff, and we can help get you squared away with sponsorship options for the task force. With that being said, guys, we're going to start wrapping this up. The next few Thursdays are holidays. So this is going to be our last show for 2025. We're going to come back in January 2026 and really hit the ground running, hopefully with some really good stuff to share with the industry about what the task force is doing. We will continue to do our task force minute every day that I currently do. That will continue to go through the holidays, so be sure to check that out. Please like and subscribe to all of our social media, especially on LinkedIn and YouTube. That's where our most current stuff is. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Ladies and gentlemen, your bill has been left on the table. Be sure to tip out your waitress, and we will see you the next time you join us here at the TikTok Diner. Have a good day.